Welcome to this new automotive news video, the first of this new week of February 23, 2026. We're going to start this video by talking about Tesla, which is facing a new problem since, according to a whole bunch of new data, its self-driving cars are actually much more dangerous than cars driven by humans. We'll also talk about a new scourge, a new scam that's spreading, which has already affected hundreds of thousands of French people. The infamous phantom garage fraud. We'll talk about Nissan, which is abandoning the development of its future entry-level electric car, about Renault, which is facing a new setback regarding the development of its future electric vehicles, but also about Alfa Romeo, which has finally decided to keep selling cars equipped with large combustion engines. These will be the topics of this video for February 23rd, a video which, like all the others coming out until Friday, is being recorded under somewhat unusual circumstances. I'm on a business trip. I don't have access to my desktop PC for editing, so the videos for the next 3 or 4 days will have very, very light editing. In any case, despite the somewhat light editing, if you enjoyed the video or if you found it interesting or both, you never know, feel free to support my channel by leaving a like on this video, boosting it, subscribing for the next ones, and leaving a comment where you share your thoughts on today's news, especially regarding the Tesla topic. Are you one of those drivers who are ready to trust computers and AI, to trust autonomous driving, to drive your car for you? Before diving into the topics from the video summary, I'm sharing an extra news update. A few days ago, I told you that on February 23rd, which is today, the European Commission was supposed to announce new measures that would set, let's say, the direction for the automotive industry for the coming years. Regarding what's called Made in Europe, that is, defining for future cars that will be sold in the European Union, what percentage of their components will have to be of European origin? The manufacturers, equipment suppliers, and the Commission still haven't reached an agreement on this point. That's why the Commission's decisions will only be published and announced on March 4, 2026 at the earliest, because it could still be postponed, since these are still quite urgent measures that need to be implemented. And above all, these are decisions that will impact the manufacturers and all their strategic choices for the next 10 to 15 years. And yet the delays keep piling up, and no concrete measures are being taken. It's been over 3 months since December, and by March 2026, it will be 4 that the European Commission has postponed the Made in Europe issue. All right, now let's talk about the main topics of today's video. And as I mentioned, we'll start by talking about Tesla, which may have lied because just a few months ago it claimed that its self-driving cars were less dangerous and caused, on average, fewer accidents than a human driver. Well, that's not supported by the numbers according to the NHTSA, which is the American Road Safety Authority. This organization had access to a whole bunch of numerical data from Tesla. These data were collected over a fairly long period, between June 2025 and January 2026. The data show that on average, over the millions of kilometers analyzed by the NHTSA, Tesla's self-driving vehicles were involved in 4 times more accidents than vehicles driven by humans. Tough luck. For Tesla, the more time passed and the more one might think that the self-driving system was perfected, unfortunately, the more incidents multiplied. As I was saying, we're talking here about a study that was conducted over 6 months. And in the last month, between December and January 2026, more than a third of the incidents were recorded. Incident doesn't always mean the self-driving system is at fault. It could involve third-party vehicles responsible for the collision. By the way, not all of these accidents are necessarily collisions with other cars. They can also be cases of collisions with stationary obstacles on the road, for example. It's quite a problem for Tesla to handle because Elon Musk, who is the company's CEO, used to boast that Tesla's self-driving technology was safer and more secure than human driving, and that in the future, this technology would be able to reduce accidents by a factor of 10. Currently, it's actually the opposite and could cause serious problems for Tesla's product development, especially the Cybercab, which is the autonomous taxi. For broad deployment, they need NHTSA approval, which could decide the technology isn't safe enough, and it could either limit the number of Cybercabs sold or require technical modifications, and as a result, delay the authorization for them to be on the road. And for a Cybercab, which is still one of Tesla's most important projects for the coming months or years, everything depends on autonomous driving. Because without autonomous driving, it's just a taxi, and taxis have been around for 500 years. That would be far from revolutionary. And speaking of revolution, let's talk about the one that isn't going to happen. At Nissan is working on its future Leaf, which is supposed to arrive in Europe around 2026-2027. And the bad news is that Nissan has canceled the real entry-level version of this new model. The base Leaf is supposed to start at around $28,000, but Nissan wanted to offer a slightly cheaper version, still with a 52 kW battery, which would have been somewhere around 26,000 euros. It was supposed to offer about 450 kilometers of range. And it's true that at that price, it would have been quite a small revolution in Europe. The only one you can currently buy in Europe at that price with similar range is the MG4 Electrics. Otherwise, with most traditional manufacturers, whether Japanese or European, you have to expect to pay around 30,000 to 32,000 euros to get a similar range. That would have been nice, but it's not happening because Nissan has paused development indefinitely. For the simple reason that, as you probably know, Nissan is not doing very well at the moment. Financially, things are really not good. They believe that developing this version would be too expensive compared to what it could bring in, even if it might do well in Europe. We shouldn't forget that Nissan also sells a lot in the United States. And in the US, cars with small batteries, because in the US, 52 kWh is considered small. Well, not many people are interested in that. Nissan, in general, for its future strategy, prefers to focus on models that are sure to sell, and especially on models where they are sure to make a comfortable profit margin, which won't be the case with a Leaf sold really cheaply. I also wanted to quickly talk to you about a scam that is exploding everywhere in France, which has already affected hundreds of thousands of drivers. It's the so-called phantom garage scam. In France, we have what's called the SIV. The Vehicle Registration Service is an online platform that dealerships can use to manage registration documents and register cars. The problem is that the SIV, like most French government websites, is a sieve when it comes to security. And fraudsters manage to bypass the SIV's security system to create fake garages using real business registration numbers and real existing garages. It's a kind of identity theft where instead of stealing someone's personal identity, you steal their business. Well, that's right. That's what's happening with the SIV, through which fraudsters manage to register stolen cars and create registrations for vehicles that simply don't exist. As a result, last year, thousands of French people got scammed, paid for cars, and made transfers. Some vehicles don't exist, leading people to lose thousands or even tens of thousands of euros to scams. This kind of fraud is a problem for everyone, right? Customers sometimes lose tens of thousands of euros to theft, which is a problem. It's a problem for the real garages whose identities are stolen, and whose identities are used by fraudsters to commit various crimes. And now it also penalizes the insurers, who are sometimes victims of fake accidents. Between several vehicles that don't exist, but whose registration exists in the SIV, and who then request compensation, it all highlights the various security flaws that exist in the vehicle registration system. But for now, there is no major reform of the platform planned yet. The government is only talking about better algorithmic detection of anomalies and stricter controls. Authorizations are given to different garages, allowing them to register cars, and heavier financial penalties, but that will take months to put in place. Months during which it will continue to be the Wild West on the SIV, and there's nothing that says it will really be better afterwards. In conclusion, it's kind of up to the French to manage on their own and to detect potential scammers themselves. So be wary of cars that are advertised at prices that are too tempting, 20–30% cheaper than normal. That's not normal. And when you make your next car purchase, be on the lookout for any inconsistency, whether it's multiple ownership changes in just a few months, or a registration certificate that looks recent, even though the car is supposed to belong to the dealership. For a long time, inconsistencies between the name, the seller's address, even the smallest detail. It could be a sign that the car you're about to buy might be a previously stolen car, or a car with a lien, or one that's been in an accident and shouldn't be sold. To brighten your mood during these tough times for the automotive world, you should know that Alfa Romeo has confirmed that, contrary to what was previously planned, the sporty versions of the Alfa Romeo Giulia and the Stelvio, the Quadrifoglio versions with the 2.96 engine producing over 500 horsepower, will still be sold in Europe. They were set to be discontinued due to high CO2 emissions, and Stellantis wanting to avoid CO2 fines. They will remain in the lineup at least until the end of 2027, and maybe even longer if the next Giulia and Stelvio are delayed further. The prices haven't been confirmed, but we're probably talking about vehicles sold for over 110,000 euros, since the current generation sells for 104,000. And that's only going to go up. In a completely different area, you should know that Renault has suffered another setback regarding its electric car or electric vehicle projects. Renault had co-founded along with Volvo and CMA CGM, which is a shipping company. The three of them had founded it together. Flexes. It was supposed to be a new entity focused on developing new electric utility vehicles, like the upcoming electric Traffic, which is expected by the end of 2026. The problem is that electric utility vehicles sell very poorly. And Volvo and CMA CGM absolutely no longer agreed with Renault on how to proceed with this project. Renault has decided to independently develop its future electric utility vehicles on its own by fully buying out Flexes, by purchasing the shares that Volvo and CMA CGM held in this company. This won't happen overnight. It should be done by mid-2026. It's good news and bad news for Renault. The good news is that it will be able to decide absolutely everything it wants for the development of its future electric utility vehicles and adapt to the market it believes is right. The downside is, since they're alone on this project, it's up to them to move forward. The potential billions of euros needed to develop its future vehicles can no longer rely on money from Volvo or CMA CGM. The advantage is that if it sells very well, she will be the only one to pocket the profits. On the other hand, if it doesn't sell, she will be the only one who has to bear all the potential financial losses. That's it. We've covered these little news updates for February 23rd. I hope you found the video interesting. If that's the case, as usual, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and become a supporter by clicking the join button. Under this video, we'll meet again tomorrow for the next news video. In the meantime, take care, bye.